I would lean to let's bring in sidekicks instead of playing with George in the actual rooms. I think the sidekicks would be a better start, but we're kind of in that time where you guys have kind of just done this like horrific show of strength and are more or less like relaxing like you're the kings of the castle now. And we'll kind of pick up there. So my question would be is Nick, have you thought about a second character? You don't need anything more than a name and a general class that you were expecting to play with them.
Yeah, I think maybe if Lynn dies, I'll try a cleric. Um, a name, not sure of name yet.
So if I asked you to find a token of this cleric, would you have to name them before you could find their token? And would you know their kind of subclass that you wanted to go with the cleric? And I believe Candor, you've got Trevin, correct? I think his token's
Right.
actually
Yep.
outside of the camp.
Yeah, I can move him in now. Yeah, he's the bard. Yep.
Yeah, I think for now I only had sent you the actual card. I feel like having those cards is way easier than trying to input their stats, so it's like automatically there. But that goes back to that same thought. I like just basically rolling d20. So if you think it would be problematic, Nick, part of what I was asking is we don't have to worry about it that much because at least until you guys do something hostile or some rolls go really bad, you guys are in a negotiating kind of stance here. I just wanted you to have that thought. It's kind of a background for most of my games to try to have other characters in mind. Again, as people die. I like playing dangerous games. Um, so you guys can sit back and relax here. I believe we had Candor basically doing exactly that, like wiping up blood. Do you all have any thoughts as the rooms kind of clear out? It is basically your group right now. For all it's worth, I don't think there's a reason we can't say George and Bast are inside of that room with you, that you all have six people here kind of like holding this room. But like, what are your thoughts here while you guys are waiting for these goblins to come back?
Yeah, because Candor's kind of just like lounging on kind of one of the crates. Yeah, kind of cleaning up some of the blood from his blades, and um, I think maybe kind of as we're waiting a little bit longer, he's I think we had noticed that there were some that it seemed to be the Lion Shield Coster's symbol or emblem on the couple of the crates. So I think he'd just be kind of maybe like after he was kind of finishing up with the cleaning up, maybe just kind of like stand up and kind of just like not moving with any particular urgency, but kind of just moving to kind of take a account of the crates that he can see.
Gotcha. So you're just like looking for a number of crates?
Yeah, he's not opening them up, anything like that. He's kind of just like more out of curiosity, just kind of like counting, like thinking.
I'd say looking through, you kind of see, I think probably eight crates, maybe like six that have the Lion Shield Coster on them, and then two others that seem to be like dried goods or other kind of like mercantiles. But again, I think you could find 8 of those. Flynn, what kind of thoughts does Flynn have as things kind of calm down? Are you
Um, I guess Flynn just sort of comes to the more as the heat of battle dies down, comes to more sober realization of what he's done and just hopes that such a brutal action will help free Gundren. Just sort of he really wants to wash the blood off, but is worried that he needs to keep up the intimidation factor right now. So he's just keeping an eye on where the goblins went, hoping they'll be willing to negotiate Gundren's release. Oh, are you talking? We can't.
so as about 10 minutes go by and you guys have had no response from around, everything still seems silent. You could still hear the wolves barking and kind of making a fuss. You can kind of understand that even with it being a trash heap, they can kind of still smell you from that area. But other than that, little drips of water from within the cave to the north of you. This room seems kind of isolated. You're not getting any sign from the goblins. Any reaction after the first 10 minutes of this?
I think Candor's going to get kind of seems like he was relaxing, but now he's starting to get a little impatient. He's going to look Flynn's way and thought the that running one might have been going to get his friends, but perhaps not. Might have to take it upon ourselves to go find them. And he'll kind of nod off towards the north.
Yeah, I agree. Um, suppose let's head on over there, see where they are.
Might be best to try and look non-threatening at first, but who knows what goblins will do. Um, but I think Candor is if there are kind of like torches and any like sconces here, he might just grab one and if he can, like take it out and use that for light as he starts moving towards the north, towards the passageway.
Yeah, I'd say this is a solid place. You could grab a used torch. Just grabbing one off the wall, it's probably good for about like half its life. But in that room, you guys would have seen some area with like a couple more torches if you guys wanted to grab others or fresher ones. But yeah, you could definitely simply take a torch from the wall there and start to head out of the room to the north.
Yep. At the moment, Candor does not have a weapon drawn. He's got just the torch in his hand.
Gotcha. So as you're kind of heading out of that room, you will first shed light across the body of a goblin. Um, Honestly, I don't remember who killed that goblin to describe how they were slain, but they are dead on the ground. You can start to see like the outline of this pool of water. You can kind of see that it's actually stacked stones to kind of dam up the water from coming into where it is. That this whole area kind of slopes down a little bit towards that water. If you guys continue through this room, you kind of see that it opens up more towards the west than towards the north, but you can see where the water's dripping in. And then as you come across this area, let me get investigations from both of you. Candor, you can basically see like how engineered this is. That there's a few large boulders that they can kind of like thrash that that dam and kind of open up the water and send water kind of pouring down this area, and how this was effectively described as a trap earlier, when you all kind of bought some information from that other goblin. But kind of moving through here, you all will see it kind of splits off into a few different directions. You can see a little bit more of the lake, and I believe you can see evidence in this kind of left-hand area where a smaller dam was kind of wrecked and some of the rocks are kind of like strewn outward. And you can see that this side of the dam is much lower water levels, that basically they've kind of like already released that side. But you can kind of see where the rocks are actually like thrown about from it. But as you all kind of like take this cavern, you can kind of see that there is a way to go to the north. Obviously, following the water is pretty close to that one, and then there is a way to go to the south of you here.
Clever little buggers. Candor will just kind of mutter to himself as he kind of realizes the engineering. Kind of as we coming up to this area, he'll look back at Flynn and kind of, what do you think, Flynn? North, south? Follow the stream, branch off.
Uh, not sure. Where do you think they would be keeping Gundren? Probably deeper in.
Yeah, that's a fair bet. So Candor's gonna like, he'll take out a copper, he'll flip it, kind of look at it, and then nod off to the north. Eh, Perhaps we follow the river for stream for now. Keep going this way.
So, as you all start to follow the river, you're going to see that it kind of curves around and starts to go downward with the actual flow of the water going downhill. And eventually, you guys can kind of come to the actual turn over here. You don't seem to come into contact with anything. You all don't necessarily hear anything happening. But basically, as you kind of come around to this, you, from the backside, are going to be able to see much further down. Let me. The kind of west side of that bridge as you're walking from higher. By the time you get under the bridge, your head height at like the foot of the bridge very much becomes like your head like 5 feet below the bridge. So it's like a 10 foot tall, um, 10 foot above the actual cave or so at the foot of this bridge when you're underneath it. But when you're kind of first coming around that corner, you can see a little bit further down that hallway, as that's probably where you encountered the goblin who was first shooting arrows when you all entered.
Gotcha. But from like this direction, we don't see a way to get up to the bridge level.
You
Towards it
could
looks
climb up on the rocks, but you can basically confirm from that point that basically going back around and to the south here, you can follow that path um, across the bridge.
right. So yeah, so Candor will look back towards Flynn and suppose we should have gone the other way. I'm not gonna. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry. What's across the bridge? Let me see.
Like you guys can see the cave. That's where you encountered the goblin before. But there's nothing there now. There's nothing to be seen.
Okay. But does the cave carry further on across the bridge?
I mean, you guys can see the opening. Yes, that's the point of recognizing the bridge is there, is that there's an opening, but it's darkness. So, like, what you can see on the map is being revealed because you guys are walking around at like head height of the actual bridge. You can see down that part of the corridor, but it's just looking into darkness. Beyond that, you guys can't really pick anything else up.
Yeah, so that's why Candor suggesting kind of we backtrack and try the other way because maybe that will sort of lead up to the take us up to the bridge so that we can actually cross it.
Oh, okay. I see.
Or just climbing up there. But why climb when you can actually walk the intended way?
Yep. So Candor will start back the way he'd come, and this time going around.
Yeah, so you guys make that the route around. You find that this other way to the south starts to kind of climb up and basically reaches the edge of the actual bridge is kind of the end of the actual incline. So it's almost where Candor was there to the start of the bridge. And you can start to see across. Once you're actually over the bridge, you can see that there I would have torn it down by now. You can basically see from that height in the bridge that same little entrance to the southwest of you that you guys have seen a little bit of. You can kind of see like a little bit different angle of it as your light might cast down a little bit like that. But once you guys start to cross this bridge, you can see that it kind of weaves into the rock ahead and starts to move towards the left, where eventually you all will actually start to hear panicked voices. When you take a moment to listen, Flynn can recognize them as goblinoid, and you can basically hear uh, kind of like a bunch of panicked pleas that they either need to do something or they should like go to the new master. And you can basically understand that there's kind of like some sort of panic call for action here that they need to deal with you all. And you guys are kind of walking up on this conversation. Well, what thoughts do you all have?
Candor's going to turn to Flynn because Flynn can understand and communicate with these goblins much better than Candor can.
They seem to be pretty panicked. Um, I think they mentioned a new leader. Hopefully that means us. Make things easier to for us.
Can you tell them that the Clark killer want to parlay?
Yeah, I'll repeat that in Goblin, like I'll sort of yell it out.
Gotcha. You could roll a performance there, or you could roll an intimidation. All right, so kind of like summoning that like bloodlust, and sort of the fear-inducing thing that kind of had you tear the skull of Clarg off of his um, still beating heart. Um, you kind of like pull that forward, and as you yell to these goblins to kind of come forth to the Clarg killer, you kind of like will hear a dead silence kind of fall over the rock, ahead. A moment. Another. You've killed Clark? Oh, we don't mean you any harm. You will not harm us. You have come to hurt us?
Uh, we do not um, intend to hurt you so long as we get what we've come for, the dwarf and his companion.
A man?
Yes, a dwarven man. We believe you captured him on the road.
We don't have any dwarves.
Um, Not like roll insight.
Oh, great Clark killer. You can roll an insight check. I mean, it doesn't really like say it with any reason that you wouldn't trust a goblin or that you should trust the goblin. This is somebody that you're not actually seeing right now, but you're trying to like think about like how believable that is as you kind of hear him kind of like calling out to you, and it's like, if you intend us no harm, join us. Come into see our. You like hear like a little bit of like discussion, and then like they kind of like start to yell again down the tunnel, and they're gonna go for the same wordage. A man.
And is Flynn, are you sort of like translating this as it goes, or focused on the conversation?
Um, yeah, I guess I can translate if I have time. Yeah, they want us to go forward and see what they have.
Candor will kind of shrug and then nod. Suppose we should see who they've got. Can't imagine who else who'd it be, but
So once you guys actually round the corners, going a little bit deeper in, you are going to see as some of the light is actually coming out of where they are looking from. You guys can kind of like walk across this smaller little corridor where there's kind of two big steps down to the bottom that's about like 10 or 15 feet below. It's certainly a way out or a way that you could have come in, but the bridge is a little bit better sized for you all. As you come around the actual corner, you are very quickly going to see a bunch of goblins who are kind of like stacked up on each other, and they're all kind of huddled in that corner. They're all around a little bit of a fire, and they all seem more or less in kind of a panic state, but they're also not unarmed. These are certainly still um, animalistic creatures that possess weapons and still have a bite. There is one figure who is up top of this room, who is about 10 feet above. There's a staircase in that lower western position there. And that one goblin stands up above all the rest, and he's the only one who is making eye contact with you all as you walk into this room. But when you do walk into this room, the one making eye contact with you is going to kind of like bow his head low, still kind of keeping eye contact as his arms sweep out, and his left arm is going to go into his chest, right arm towards this man who is kind of like fallen across the ground and is more or less in a prone state in the east side of this room. And you'll see as this little goblin's kind of like almost chin down to the ground in this bow to you. This is the scene that you're walking into. And as they kind of see you, you'll hear this goblin say, "The great card killer." And he's looking towards Flynn.
Yes. Let me see your prisoner.
Yeah, like his arms are like presenting in that direction. So you can walk past the other goblins. They all kind of push back into that corner a little bit more. You'll see as he kind of like stands and just kind of like looks at you as you walk around until, yeah, you can head off into that corner and see this man is still breathing. He's not incredibly healthy here. He is effectively like beaten up, thrashed, and more or less in kind of like armoring clothing, which is basically very thin, like kind of leather and like linen garments. Um, Otherwise, white haired man, mid 60s, uh, pretty gaunt. And yeah, I think that's kind of what you can kind of pick up there.
Is he unconscious?
Do you want to do a medicine check on him? Like he's not like greeting you as you walk in.
Um, don't really have medicine. Can I try a
Well,
loop?
like everybody can do a medicine check, but like to
Oh,
see somebody's health, what are you thinking here?
um, I'm thinking this
Is
might.
he unconscious? Yes. But
Okay.
like what are you actually like looking for when you're walking over to this person?
Um, I don't know. I've never seen. What was his name? Hold on. I got the contract. Sildar. I've never actually seen Sildar, so
So you like pull out your little contract as you're walking over to him and you kind of like look for this name and like leaning down towards them you're going to say Sildar and kind of like question him.
yeah.
You'll see a little bit of movement from this person as they kind of like roll to their back, and you just kind of like see like a little bit of like an eye opening and kind of like looking up towards you. It is, and you are.
Um, I'm Flynn. I was hired by Gundren to deliver a wagon to um oh, blanking on the name of the village.
Phandalin.
Phandalin. Yes. When we arrived, you and Gundren weren't there, so we came looking for you. Do you know where Gundren is?
After a moment, you're gonna like see as he kind of like slowly, strenuously reaches his hand out, and he's kind of like reaching for your face. Are you doing anything as he reaches for your face?
Um, no, I guess not. I don't think any he's gonna hurt me.
So as he touches you, he's just going to say, "Sweet Lathander, you're real. We never made it to Phandalin. Know not where Gundren is. I've not seen him these days."
I'll turn to the goblin in charge. When you took this man, was there a dwarf with him? Did the dwarf escape?
Brought to us. We only had the man. Clark said man. We have man. That's your man.
It is. Seems they have no idea about where Gundren is, so alright then. Deal. We'll take I wish to seek a deal with you. We'll take the man, and you can be I point to the one who seems to be in charge, and you can be the new leader. All you have to do is let us leave with him.
There's the matter of the crates, Flynn.
Oh.
Kander will kind of try to whisper that over to him.
Oh, and the crates. The stolen goods. We wish to take them as well.
It's gonna kind of like look to you guys, and as you're kind of like going over this, he's gonna scream out deal before Candor can like kind of like mention the crates. And then when you finish discussing the crates, and he's gonna kind of look to you guys and he's gonna just say like, or we could go halves and everybody profits.
I guess that's the best we can get right now. Plus, I don't know if we can carry all the crates ourselves.
Assuming Flynn again kind of translates, or Kander will actually kind of like turn towards the goblin, and once Flynn translates, like I'm always open to a mutually beneficial deal. I'll say that in common towards the goblin. Not sure if he'll be understood, but
Yes, we can't carry all the crates ourselves, so halves. Deal? Hmm.
If you need to hire porters, I could certainly arrange for any carrying needs that you have, and we could adjust any coinage or otherwise.
and sorry, is he still speaking in goblinoid at this point?
I guess for what it's worth, this one can certainly move to common. After Candor kind of like makes the remark about like mutually beneficial. Let's say kind of like switches the common from there. Definitely a very rough comment. Sounds kind of like somebody trying to vomit while they're speaking. But he'll kind of like look to you all and um, in kind of like a like cash scam kind of way, he'll like offer you guys like a crate, or you guys could pay them like a certain amount of coin, and then you guys could have them take the coin and you can pay them a little bit more, because then you would then have to have them carry the crate for you. But they're gonna kind of like go over things, and you guys could get goblins to carry the crates back to you, back to Phandalin for 1 gold piece per crate. If you buy the 4 crates off of them that they would get in the deal as halves, They'll do a total of 10 gold pieces to sell those 4 crates and to carry all of the crates back to Phantom for you. I'm going to go ahead and say this goblin actually understands the value of the different coins.
Kander's gonna look towards Flynn. I certainly don't want to carry all those things back myself.
Yes, I suppose it's what we need to do to get the crates back.
So at the
Thank you,
first
sir.
thought that you guys are like liking this idea, you're gonna see as he kind of like looks to you guys with like a kind of sinister look on his face, and he's like, "How many coppers do you have?" And he's gonna like ask if you've got 100 copper pieces instead of 10 gold coins.
Yes, I have 100 copper. Would you prefer that?
That would be most desirable.
Is he saying copper or silver?
No, copper. 100 copper should be 10 gold pieces. Am I being crazy right here?
10 silver is 1 gold. So 100
Yeah, the
silver would be
100
10
copper.
gold. No, 100 copper would be 1 gold.
All right, my bad. He would say 1,000 copper pieces.
Oh,
My point again, though, is this
I
one
thought
is
he was
not like caught up in the actual. Um, he understands the value, but he wants copper pieces. This isn't the type of thing though. Like when you guys are out here, you can't exchange money. If you're carrying around 100 copper, or again, I made a mistake there, 1,000 copper pieces, you need to actually have all of that weight. It is quite hefty. That's part of why I'm getting at. He's asking for this. Is the more copper he has, the more it looks like he has treasure.
I
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify to make sure it wasn't.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I
that's
thought
my mistake.
he w yeah, I thought he was purposely making sake, but I didn't yeah. So I was like, "Yeah, sure, 100 copper, that sounds great."
So Kander's kind of he'll be kind of looking in his pouch and looking towards Flynn, like a few hundred copper, maybe.
I have 200 copper, 50 silver, 10 gold.
So Kander's gonna turn back towards the goblin. Well, we don't have 1,000 on us, but if we give you half now, you bring the crates back to Fandolin, we can might be able to get exchange a few of our others for uh, more of what you need.
How much now? You have 500 copper?
I've got 285 copper on me.
How much does Kander have?
Yep, Kender's got just over 300, so he'll nod and say, "I think we can do 500 now." Just about.
Yeah, he'll look to you and he's gonna say 550 now, and then when we get there, you do another 500. So he's taxing you 5 silver.
Kender will Kender will
And
nod.
he's gonna wink at you and he's gonna say, "It's always dangerous transferring money along the road, bandits and all."
Oh yes, I'm quite aware. But I
So
suppose for your added trouble, that's acceptable.
Mitzo is going to collect up those like 550 copper pieces from you. While you all are getting prepared, you can certainly take uh, take Sildar with you to the other room, and basically you'll have the goblins start to like gather a bunch of those things up and kind of like package it up for you. The entire time, Mitzo is going to stay in that other room counting all of those silver or copper pieces, eventually coming to the conclusion that it is enough pieces. He's going to come back to you all, kind of nod to the goblins, and they'll like very quickly finish up everything else, moving much quicker and have everything ready to go. And you can kind of see that at some point they were like delaying being ready, as they basically had Mitzo counting his coin. But when he is good to go, you kind of get the nod from him. The goblins can get you all set back on your way, and you basically will have um 10 goblins probably accompanying you, as they're all carrying these like 8 crates.
And Kander would have taken a little time kind of while they were doing that to just check over Sildar, maybe use his kit to if he seems like he's wounded or bruised.
Yeah, definitely one of those things where you can certainly it's kind of one of the more obscure uses of a medicine kit because again, he's a very tough person. He's certainly just very beat up here. This is the type of thing where kind of like general pick me up kind of things really help because everything's beaten up. He need
Um,
What do you think of there, Nick?
yeah, I can give him some lay on hands. Let's see. Um, would 3 hit points help him?
You could certainly give him 3 hit points.
Yeah, I'll give him 3 hit points.
I don't
Uh,
think that's any reason not to have Candor do his healing kit just the same. He can certainly benefit from having those heals given to him. You can see in both moments, yeah, he looks much better as both the magical as well as the mundane healing kind of flows through his body. You can see a little bit of his constitution kind of return to him. His breathing kind of normalizes, almost a little bit of color kind of returning to his face. He definitely benefits from those things. In this same amount of time, all of you can benefit from a short rest here. If you would like to expend any hit dice that you may have, really, it's just if you would like to expend your hit die if you still have it. Otherwise, when you guys are ready, we'll pretty much have you in that evening heading back towards Phandalin here.
And is out of curiosity, at this point, is aid still present, or has that faded? I forget exactly how long that was going to
I
last.
would say at this point you're probably on the outside end of aid. It's 8 hours from the morning and 2 hours there. I think it's within reason to say that you guys have a small percentage of a chance of basically making it back there. Um, I'd say no. I'd say aid's going to wear off in the goblin hide because of the way the negotiation worked out, and kind of the time the goblins almost like postpone you being able to leave. I'd say you're going to lose aid inside of the hide, and basically the rest of the day would probably be from essentially full hit points here.
Gotcha. Yeah, I imagine it would have taken some time to do all the counting and the crates, and yeah, and then traveling probably with them would be slower on the way back.
But as far as the actual travel back to Phandalin here, can I have you guys make a D12 roll? Each of you, please. So you guys have like notes on how to pass back through the traps that were in this initial area here. You have at least like a little bit of information about these goblins and about Mitzo. You have some of the goblins kind of traveling with you here, and you guys can basically make your way back to Phandalin with little issue overall. When you do start to near Phandalin itself, though, you are going to be greeted by the similar view of kind of the town on the rise above you. A couple of the farms, like on this winding road that you're following up to the actual, like, walled stone outer Phandalin. And you can see two guards of the Order of the Ruby Owl kind of sitting across that entryway. You guys are still walking up the hill, so you kind of have that advantage. You guys can continue here and walk into Phandalin, or you can actually take a moment to plan. Like, you have goblins with you. Goblins are not generally welcomed, but at present they seem to be engaged in this contract perfectly happily here. So, what kind of thoughts do you all have as you are effectively coming up on Phandalin with these goblins from the north here?
Yeah, Candor is gonna kind of like he'll like kind of hold up an arm, hold up a hand as we're getting near, as he spots the guards off in the distance, and he's kind of looking towards Flynn, and he already charged us when we went through the wagon. Can't imagine they'll let us through again. Already paid enough to get them here. I'd really rather not have to pay any more.
Sure. Yeah, I guess we can stop here and one of us can go exchange the gold and get oh I uh let's see.
Well, we
Elmar Barthen, see if he can help us, him and his people can help us bring this stuff in.
might want to get it off the main way. Uh, Barthen said there was some few farms nearby, right? And he's gonna look towards the kind of that path splitting off. Uh, Perhaps we might. Perhaps there's a more roundabout way to get back in, one that's not quite so watched.
I guess so.
Is that what you're kind of thinking? Like where you have that area off to the west? There's like two different farmhouses and then about three or so different farm buildings that are kind of out in that distance. Are you thinking like try to divert westward?
Yeah, that's Candor's thought. Yeah.
So if you had one of you going to Barthen to exchange some gold, and one of you kind of staying with your goblin porters going towards the farms. What do you guys think you would do there?
Candor wants to stay with the merchandise for now.
Gotcha. And then Flynn was already thinking about going into Barthen's. So does Flynn have 5 gold pieces on him?
Yes.
I mean,
Gotcha.
Candor will off. He'll hand over a couple, or offer them if he needs them to Flynn.
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, we can have, like either of you mark off effectively 2.5 gold. And he can go get 500 copper pieces from Parthens. if that's kind of the general idea there.
Yeah, I can just split it down the middle. Yeah. And I've got had a bunch of silver, so I'd basically, yeah, I'll take like um 2 gold and 20 silver. Or and 10 silver. No, 5 silver.
Gotcha. So if we have Candor start to head off to the west with the goblins, you're basically going to walk off the trail, and just kind of come back around Thandalin. I'm going to have you make a survival check. And then Flynn, when you walk up to the guards, you're basically going to see as they kind of like look around for a moment, and they kind of like see you approaching all alone, and
Oh, are we leaving Sildar with you, or is he coming with me?
Candor wouldn't have any preference, so he would, if Flynn wants him with him, then
Yeah, I guess I can bring Sildar if he wants. I'm sure he wants to get back into town.
gotcha. So you can walk up with Sildar. In general, he's like well enough to walk. He certainly still has a limp here. You can't really tell from the signs of things whether this is something that's actually from a fresh wound. But what's your passive insight? 11? Think you might be able to pick up that his limp is actually from like an older wound, that it is not something fresh. But you guys can basically limp up to the outskirt, uh walking up to this edge. He's going to look up and down this figure with a little bit of a surprise, as they kind of like call to you two, like, oh, wandering into town without some of your friends, then. As Sildar kind of like looks them up and down. What are you thinking there, Flint?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, let's get into town, see if we.
I believe you all paid the tax for one day. Weren't planning on sneaking in and trying to avoid your taxes, were you?
I thought the taxes were for the goods we brought in. We don't have any goods with us right now.
We gotta make sure to be taxing everybody who does visit the great town of Phandalin. It costs a lot to protect the people. You must make sure the owl is fed. Sildar's gonna kind of like perk to that name.
Well, how much then?
Copper apiece for each of you. 2 copper pieces.
Okay then. I'll give him 2 copper.
The other guard behind him is gonna like bump into him, and he's just gonna say, "Idiot, it's silver. 2 silver pieces."
We already agreed on copper.
You pay your taxes as they're due. You wouldn't want the owl to put its eye on you. Kind of like with that little bit, you're gonna have Sildar kind of turn back from you, and he's gonna kind of like looking behind, looking to the other two, and he's going to kind of like make a less than veiled threat of, you make sure the owl knows Sildar's return. If you all need to find me, I'll be in the town master's hall. And you're gonna see as the two of them kind of look back and forth to each other, And Sildar's going to kind of like look back towards you and say, "Keep moving, Flynn. Let's go to Barthen's quickly."
All right, I'll just yeah, guess I'll keep going.
So Ken, I never even noticed you rolled that one.
Yeah, he just got completely turned around, or like too focused on making sure the goblins don't take any crates or something. He's yeah.
As you're like diverting the path here and kind of moving off towards the west, and eventually you're going to have the goblins kind of like pointing towards you, and they're like, "You're going the wrong way, sir," and they're gonna like point in another direction, very clearly not the direction. The problem is that not only are they wrong, but you also are wrong. And everybody's going to get a little bit lost here. It's not going to take you a long time to necessarily find Phandalin. It's definitely one of those things where you're just like right behind the last rise on a couple of these hills to where you would have it, and you almost always convince yourself like, you must have gone wrong just in the last like valley, and you kind of like turn around. But for now, we're just gonna kind of have you guys are just wandering off to the west here. Let me have you roll a d10 real quick. So, excellent. When you guys get into Barthen's with Sildar in tow, Sildar and Barthen's will kind of pull you into that back room inside of Barthen's provisions. You can ask for the coin, and Sildar is going to send you away with. Let me actually have you roll a d100 for me, please, Nick. Alrighty. Um, Sildar is going to send you away with 490 copper pieces and 10 silver pieces. Parsons does not have enough actual copper pieces in house. Sildar is going to tell you that they are sending Thistle over to the miners' exchange, and Thistle is going to get some more copper coins, but he will be back shortly here. If the goblins take what they have for you, great. If not, Thistle is going to meet you at, and they're going to plan to meet you on the west side of Vandalin. So let me kind of pull you back here real quick.
Does Barthen have a plan to get the crates in without having to deal with the owls, or does he have a deal with
That's part of what I'm getting at here. So
Okay.
they are going to tell you that if the goblins aren't like down for that plan, to meet them in the actual orchard. So they're going to point you towards this orchard over here. So if the goblins don't want the coins that you have, you can meet them in that orchard where Thistle will be with the other 10 copper coins. Um, what they're going to do, though, is basically have you guys keep the crates here and then do something with the crates later in the actual evening. But the basic plan is um, to get you going, so you can head off to look for the others. And I basically just want to do another survival check from Candor, this time with advantage. Gotcha. So, Candor, which of these houses, when you finally do kind of come over that ridge, maybe along kind of the southwestern side, so you're less like presented, when you come over that ridge, are you looking for the actual farmhouse? Otherwise, there's like two ruined houses over there, as well as like a kind of like storage, like a cold storage cabin.
Yeah, so I think Candor will. Yeah, he'll actually his he'll look towards one of the probably the closer ruined farmhouse. I think he's not sure who might live nearby. Um, but yeah, so he's thinking maybe we can use one of these, ruined farmhouses as kind of a temporary place to store this stuff.
Gotcha. So, just at some point, probably like a little bit after dusk here, kind of thing, we can have you all kind of seeing as they're kind of gathering up in that house. Um, that's the general area that Candor had said he was going. That's where Flynn was kind of heading back over. You guys can kind of meet up. Do you want to offer the goblin the 490 copper and the 10 silver, or are you going to wait for Thistle regardless? Like, what kind of thoughts do you have there, Flynn?
Um, I'll offer the goblin the choice. I have 490 copper and 10 silver here, or you can wait a bit longer and you can get the remaining copper.
You give him an either or question, and his answer is going to be yes, and he holds out his hand.
Okay, I'll give him the copper and the silver.
So he's going to take those. The goblins are basically going to like look to you like kind of like you're crazy because they're bringing these crates somewhere and they're setting them down in a ruined house. But the goblins can basically set the crates down there. They're going to take their coin and they're going to end up bugging out and leaving here. As far as things go for you all, when Thistle does arrive, Thistle will have the extra coinage, kind of like shrugging as he sees that you guys have already like done it. And between Thistle and what will eventually be Ander, they'll start kind of carrying these cases into the town um, later that evening. I think the initial plan would be to kind of have you guys. Yeah, okay, here it is. When Thistle sees you all having already dealt with the goblins, Thistle's just gonna kind of like let you guys know, like, we can go back in. Well, we won't move these until much later in the evening. Make sure that the owls can start to drink, so they won't try to tax you anymore. We can bring them in. Barthen, my bad. Darren Edermath owns this orchard. He won't be a problem. He understands Ander and I go through here pretty regularly.
Well, your assistance is much appreciated, Thistle. These crates are most of these are intended for Lenine. If you can get word to her, but why don't you keep those 10 coppers for your trouble? Split them amongst yourselves.
So he kind of nod to you all. I don't think he necessarily knows if that was your money or if that was Barthen's money. So he's kind of got like an awkward kind of like, yeah, this is my boss's money. So I'm not sure why you're talking about it. But he like kind of like continues on. If you guys wanted to like walk back, his plan basically right now is to start to head back towards Barthen's. And he basically kind of again like looks to you all and like, yeah, they should be safe here. And you'll kind of like walk through the actual orchard, where there's like I don't have the year in mind for you all right now. Got you in early spring. Yeah, so walking through the orchard, you would probably have, or late spring rather, you would probably have some of the actual buds and like the first flowers of these apple trees. So it'd smell pretty amazing going through that. You can kind of like walk directly past the farmhouse and head into town via like the town green there, or you can kind of head in between some of the houses where it's a little bit more stealthy to kind of move around. Do you all have thoughts? Are you just trying to get directly back to Barthen's? Um, or are you going to kind of like wander around first? I think Thistle will kind of look to you all and say he's probably going to head over to the Lion Shield Coster to let Linen know.
Yeah, Candor's thinking kind of we once we kind of hit the green, we can make our way back maybe through those houses and then back into the kind of that area where the shrine of Tamora is, and then just essentially act like we've been in here, or Candor at least has kind of hasn't left town, and then from there
Gotcha.
just kind of
Yeah. Like from the green, it's pretty simple to just blend into a lot of movement around town. Any sort of like actual activity in like an evening that people are doing like socially is kind of around that area. So it's like the town center. It's definitely the easiest to blend into. And you could certainly wander past the actual shrine. I think you would certainly see Gariel there, and she'll kind of like just with an eye almost like look up as you walk past to recognize you, but otherwise seems to remain in her prayer. You would hear a little bit of noise from inside of the Stonehill Inn and eventually get to where Barthen seems kind of dark and kind of like closed up for the night, but you could head in there as well.
yeah. So Candor will kind of give a little nod of recognition to Gariel, but doesn't want to interrupt her. But he'll kind of mutter a quick prayer to Tamora as he's passing, like kind of like for luck that they don't run into anything. Hopefully, any guards just wandering around. But otherwise, he'll try and trying to look kind of inconspicuous. Just walking normal, head towards Barthen's, kind of up that main drag after he gets past the shrine.
Any thoughts from Flynn as you're kind of like walking through town? Do you try to separate yourself from Candor? Do you just like walk in and try to do the same thing, only wearing full armor?
Yeah, I know I'm not inconspicuous, so I'll just walk in normally. Um, yeah, if Candor wants to be, I won't mind if he wants to slip away and be less conspicuous. Um, I'm remembering where Sildar said he would be at the uh town. What was it? The town hall or the?
Effectively, yes, the Town Master's Hall. Um, I'll mark it in a second here, but it's basically directly under where it says the Coster for Lion Shield Coster.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that once we've dealt with Barthen, I think we should head over. Once everything's square with Barthen, we should head over there. See if he knows what happened to Gundren, because we forgot to ask him.
Yeah, Kinder has no problems with that plan.
Yeah, getting back to Barthen's, you guys will see that Sildar is no longer there. Sildar left you all a note with Barthen's that it's all fine and good as you all situate things. He will be at the Town Master's Hall. There's the Order of the Ruby to deal with. and or the Order of the Ruby Owl to deal with. And he's going to finish with, "It's not your problem." And yeah, Barthens will, I think, clear up any coinage. Basically, tell you that they'll get everything brought in here, and he'll kind of look to you and he'll say, "I'll pay you 30% on the dollar for anything that he can sell in the shop, to sell it for you."
So Candor will kind of gesturing to the six crates that have the lion shield. Will did make a deal with Leline to bring these back to her, but that's for these others too. That seems like a fair deal to me. And I'll turn to Flynn. And what do you think?
Uh, yeah, we had to spend some money to get these crates back, so might as some extra war funds are always appreciated.
Yeah, he'll like nod, like having not meant the ones for the coster. But yeah, you guys can kind of make that deal um, on some level. Um, he'll see when those things get sold. For what it is worth, I will probably award you guys gold for that at some future note here. But effectively, he wants to sell them before he's going to pay you anything for them. And kind of the other offer is just to let you guys keep what is effectively something like, like wheat flour, like corn flour. Trade goods are a really great way to transfer wealth. It's not a really great way for an adventurer to transfer wealth. But he'll look to sell those for you guys. You have Sildar having head down to the Town Master's Hall. It's evening for you guys. What thoughts do you have?
So Candor is wondering, um, like kind of turning towards Flynn. Um, Given the hour, do you think it might be? Just wondering if we might call attention to ourselves heading to the town master's hall at this hour. I'm wondering if perhaps we head by in the morning and um, try and get a bit of rest tonight.
Yes, I suppose Sildar probably wants his rest after the ordeal he's been through. We can head over in the morning.
But yeah, Candor will essentially agree with, essentially leaving the items on consignment with Barth, and he trusts him, um, and he doesn't really feel like carrying or lugging around a bunch of sacks of wheat and such. But so then once Flynn kind of agrees with his idea, Candor will suggest that we kind of take our leave of Barthen, bid him a good night, and head back to the Stonehill Inn.
Gotcha. But I will want to kind of have in there part of why what I was thinking in that like level of it too was that the boys are doing all of the actual transferring here, like from that house to both the Lion Shield as well as Barthen's. Even though 6 of those crates are your deal with Linen, he's still doing the movement with the boys. So that's part of that deal is that it covers the other one. Um, but that's just kind of a side note here. If you guys head on into the Stonehill Inn at this point of the evening, um, leaving Barthen's, you're kind of looking at the back door of the actual inn from Barthen's kind of like side entrance, where you would probably be more likely to leave from today. Still with that idea of whether you guys are trying to be sneaky or whether you are trying to just walk through town. You have the Stonehill Inn is like a side alley away from you or a main street kind of walk. Do you have any thoughts when you're walking over here now?
So Cantor's thinking, try to be inconspicuous, blend in, just don't look, try not to look too furtive. So he'd suggest we just pretend like we're just taking a stroll over to the inn.
Gotcha. So let's get a stealth check from Candor, and this will cover Finn. Yeah. So just kind of like throwing some of your like bedroll around your armor, just kind of like covering some of the sheen almost. You guys just kind of like immediately kind of step out into the kind of evening movements of the people of this town. You've got a lot of people who are coming in from different fields, a lot of people who have been basically working all day, and with the loss of light, you go to the place where they burn candles. The inn is often the place that actually has light, often has a meal if you are going to get something more than like kind of like a bone broth meal. But you can head into the Stonehill Inn. You all have been here before. You have a pretty similar feel of the general crowd in this place. Um, you've got the barkeep, Toblin, behind the bar. There is a musician on the floor, kind of playing music. There is an old man in the corner, kind of sipping some ale. You can hear a few of the Order of the Owl in the back area, kind of talking amongst themselves. And I think when you all get there, probably have Linan as well. Um, also, yep, Ben sitting at the bar.
Sorry, go ahead.
When you walk in, won't be long before Toblin sees you, and I believe you all have only really sat at the bar. So he kind of like will take a dirty rag and wipe across the bar, kind of present you guys two seats. It can be the seats that you have tokens currently in. It could be. Oh, I see a third token there. I don't see it on my screen. I see it on my bot's screen. I don't see the person who is above Flynn on my bot screen. Is there a marker above Flynn on your screen?
No.
Just the guy in the corner up at the very top, but not
No,
right
there's like
above.
a stealthy little motherfucker on my bot screen right above Flynn. He looks like he's about to murder Flynn, and it is not my token. Flynn, run away. Run fast. I do not control that man. I'm not sure what it is. It seems like a glitch. It's probably from one of the players who dropped.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
It's just weird that my bot can see him, but I can't. But yeah, you guys kind of like walking into here. There's certainly some people here. There's plenty of people who are not around in a place like this at this point of the night. Toblin will kind of welcome you, opening this little spot at the bar for you to sit down, offer you an ale, offer you a mead, or yeah, you guys did chicken the night before. This time he'll ask you if you guys wanted anything slaughtered for dinner. Otherwise, they have a chicken bone stock, basically, like from the night before, which will basically just be like a very flavored runny soup.
Yeah, I'll just take what they have: soup, uh, ale, and a room for the night, or a bed for the night.
Gotcha. So he'll do that for 3 copper pieces. And basically they'll start bringing out like this real dark, very thick bread to you pretty shortly here. They'll have a little stock of soup to you pretty shortly. The bread is like very dense and certainly benefits from being dunked in the soup. Adds a little bit more flavor to it, but is otherwise quite hearty. If you do the same with Candor, same idea. It's basically a copper a piece for like the three different options there. If you guys end up drinking more ales, those would tack on beyond.
So Candor will kind of similarly like don't trouble yourself, food wise. So he's good with the soup, but he's feeling like pretty proud of himself for what they've accomplished today. So he is going to order a mead rather than an ale. And kind of as kind of Toblin's bringing it by, Candor's gonna kind of like just like nod off towards the fellow seated at the corner, and kind of to Toblin be like, "He's much of a fixture here as he seems." Just kind of friendly, kind of trying to not be too, you know, almost like just like an aside kind of thing.
You'll see as you kind of like nod over towards him, like in the process of ordering the mead, you also kind of like caught his attention. And you're going to see in kind of like the moments that kind of flow from that. This person's going to kind of like look to you and like, I find these are the interesting places to be. And he'll kind of like nod over his shoulder a little bit, kind of like nodding towards the east side of the tavern. And he'll kind of step up and sit over near you all. And you'll see as like Toblin serves your mead to you, he'll kind of like look to you like as you go to have that first taste, before he kind of shares like, that's actually my mead. I tend to find myself spending more time than I should here, but I have more time to spend now.
Candor will kind of nod, and as he kind of like takes the first sip, um, how is the mead? Is it like good?
In general, like you're not necessarily going for like a sweet mead. Often mead is definitely like a drier. It can be very high alcohol content. I would say this is more along the lines of that, where you have dry, very high alcohol content. This is kind of like the hard liquor of um this age is kind of how I would say it. You still have the idea where beer was very easy to make and you were constantly brewing it. So you constantly had beer to mix with your water. That often an ale was just like kind of like drinking a water, basically. Whereas a mead, again, you can get a lot higher alcohol content because you're using that honey. You can get there and you can let it sit for a lot longer, almost like naturally distilling to a higher content. I think that's kind of where these two things sit. Drinking a mead is a lot more like drinking something that's like a powerful alcohol, whereas an ale is often just the way to drink water and not get sick.
Gotcha. So Candor will kind of like take the sip, do that kind of kind of thing where he kind of like clenches the jaw after like downing something kind of strong, and then um, turn back towards the man and nod again, and kind of raise the tankard or the glass. Um, uh, well done. Um, and then he'll introduce himself. Candor, by the way.
And man will reach his hand over to you, and then to Flynn as well, with Darren Edermath. Darren Edermath.
Well met.
I think on hearing the name, Candor will try to hide a little kind of like lift of his eyebrows because he remembered Thistle saying that the orchard that they had kind of moved through was belonged to Darren. He's not sure how Darren would take them traipsing through. Although the Thistle did say it would be a problem, but he still kind of wants to not um, let that on if he can hide it essentially for the moment.
Yeah, you don't have any big reaction from him when his name is shared between the two of you. He kind of like will eventually like discuss and kind of like looking over towards Flynn, having an ale, like not quite as interested there. Just kind of like hanging out near you guys. He more or less seems pretty quiet and content to kind of sit and relax. Um, kind of general description on him. I don't think I actually gave it to you that he was like an older man. He's certainly like Sildar's age, if not older, kind of thing. Very, very hooded is how he's always been presented to you all. But more or less, he's pretty quiet and reserved. In the long run, you guys have a pretty simple evening here in these kind of initial movements. After probably about an hour or so, you'll have Sildar kind of coming back into the inn. Any thoughts at present here? What you all are kind of doing in this initial time?
Candor's kind of like making small talk with Darren. Maybe like kind of like just like expressing interest in like how the meat is made and kind of thing. Just trying to be friendly. He might depending on maybe after about an hour he might be just like on the verge of ordering a second one from Toblin. He'll probably mention too. He'll probably get like a second room maybe for um like he's good bunking with Flynn in um one of the rooms, but he might get a second one for like Trevin and Bast and George. So we have two rooms. But otherwise, just kind of making small talk, drinking, eating.
Roll an insight check. Any thoughts what Flynn is up to? Are you just kind of quietly eating? Are you participating with them there?
Um, I think Flynn probably is sort of focused on the food and ale right now.
Gotcha. So Darren goes into the actual process of making the actual mead. You have a pretty good sense that this is a man who, like, cooking and the preparation of food is not what he does. He knows about like apples. He knows about like making mead, but it's not somebody who's talking about like an art form. This is somebody who's talking about like step one, step two, step three, and then you drink it and you get drunk. Pretty kind of like, all right, all right. There's more to you than this kind of feeling about them. Like you're clearly not sitting around in a tavern 24/7 because you're like making a fantastic mead.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So eventually, you all are going to have Sildar coming into the actual tavern here. Sildar's going to kind of like open up the doors, take a glance around. He's actually going to walk basically up and in front of the actual doors to where the Order of the Ruby Owl is. Kind of like look down in that area. And then he's going to return to the bar, pretty much sitting right next to where Edermath is. And Sildar is going to look over towards Toblin, and he's going to call out for. He's going to call out for a mead and then a bite to eat, whatever he's got. And he kind of like just really quickly, like kind of spins around and he's looking behind him with his back up against the bar, kind of glass in his hand.
Uh,
Go ahead. What are you thinking there?
I'm gonna say, hello, Sildar. Um, are you feeling better? You took quite the beating.
He's gonna kind of like look over to you, just like side eye, still back towards those in the other room, and he's gonna kind of like look to you, and it almost is a second take before he actually recognizes, like, oh yeah, sure, my life was in at risk, but like, what's that matter? He's kind of like very much kind of looking off in this direction. I understand the town master hired this group. They call themselves the Order of the Ruby Owl. And you can kind of tell Flynn, he's like looking at you, but he's not necessarily talking to you. How long have they been here, Toblin? And Toblin's just gonna be, I rather not, rather not say, sir. Darren, how long have they been here, Darren? Edermath's gonna kind of like just look up to him a little bit slowly here. They're like face to face looking at each other, and he'll kind of just say to him like 2 or 3 weeks, some amount of time, kind of around there. The whole time, no one did anything about them. Just kind of see as the two of them just kind of like nod, like nobody's really stood up or stopped them. Because they're not collecting taxes for you all. And you can start to see like this is the first time there's like a little bit of a quiet coming from the east as like they start to like hear like a word that's pretty well associated. And you'll start to like hear as things kind of quiet down to in the other room. And Sildar's still looking in their direction.
Yes, they were here when we arrived, collecting taxes. Um, yeah, we weren't quite sure of their authority, so we just paid them to be safe. But yeah, when we arrived, you and Gundren hadn't, so we were more focused on finding you. Speaking of which, I forgot to ask, do you know what happened to Gundren?
We were attacked on the road. I don't remember much between then and when I woke up in the cave.
Yes, the goblins say you were the only one, so we have no idea where Gundren is.
Gonna kind of like look back over his shoulder to the right and kind of saying very much like too loud to say. You can kind of see as the bard kind of like skips a beat. Like, Doesn't seem a little bit weird to you, Darren? Doesn't seem weird to you, Toblin? They came to town right after we last left. And the day we didn't arrive, they were blaming us for an attack on their guards. Doesn't seem weird to any of you. Like by now, it's like getting pretty quiet inside of the tavern.
Kander is gonna kind of try to like subtly kind of like catch Sildar's eye, kind of with his his second glass of mead in his hand, just kind of like do a little kind of like raise, like here kind of thing. Um, but he's too far to kind of like he doesn't want to call out to him down the bar, but almost like a like like a little tip, like yep, I you know agree with you.
So as he says that, you're actually going to start to hear like a slide of a chair from the eastern side of this little tavern. And very quickly, Sildar will stand up to his feet. And after a moment, you're going to have a few of these Order of the Ruby Owl kind of walking out to and up to Sildar. And he just kind of stands there, basically just like chest to chest as they kind of walk forward. They're going to start to circle around him, and they just kind of look up to him, and one of them's going to just say eye to eye to him. He's just, you looking for trouble, old man? 'Cause if you've come here tonight looking for trouble, you can certainly find yourself some trouble with the owl. And Sildar's response is going to be very quick too. You tell the owl, wherever your head may be, that Sildar's here, and I would call on him to step forth.
So as this kind of starts to unfold, Kander's gonna um he's gonna move to kind of stand off his chair, trying to feign being a little kind of drunker than he actually is. He's going to kind of start moving towards this group, and he's going to kind of call out like loudly, uh, Toblin, a round of ales for these fellows, and kind of gesturing with his arm, almost like maybe like intentionally sloshing a bit of his mead to try to keep up the impression of being a little uh, drunk, gesturing towards the order, the three order guys.
Go for a sleight of hand to test your drunken master. So as you kind of like stumble out of your seat, Linian is actually going to like leap from hers to actually kind of catch you. And she's going to kind of like stand you up as each of you like take a step forward. She's more or less along the same kind of page as you, and she's like just kind of pushing you off to Sildar's back, and she's kind of separating like around, like moving the bard to the side, and you can kind of see like she's going for here if you're going that way, but she's kind of moving you just a little bit like that towards them.
Yep, that's kind of the direction he was headed. Yeah, up towards. Um,
Any response from Flynn right now?
Um, I'm gonna look to the group that's forming. Um, I'm gonna say, um, now let's all be calm. Toblin is keeps a Nice place here, I'm sure would be a sure he doesn't want any trouble here. He doesn't deserve to have his inn, uh, possibly a place to for fighting.
Make a persuasion check. So the person in Sildar's face is going to kind of like looking past Sildar, looking towards Toblin. Maybe it is best we don't correct you this evening. Toblin does owe us his taxes to make sure his building stays safe. Perhaps this will be a reminder that he needs to pay them today, or bad things could happen. And he's going to kind of like start to step away from Sildar as the others kind of like approach. And Sildar's just going to kind of like moving up right beside him again, kind of like almost moving him like against that door sill as they're kind of like going to step out. Sildar will kind of like push him up against this wall. And as the others kind of catch back into, he's going to again saying the exact same thing of essentially, tell me where your head is. Who is the one? And he'll kind of like this time, who is the one that you got your name from? Show me the ruby owl. Tell him Sildar waits. And then Sildar's going to like just like kind of like push him away and sending them out towards the front door. And as kind of Linan kind of like um steadies Candor, and Sildar kind of throws them towards the front door, and they start to kind of like walk out and away. Everything's going to get pretty quiet for a moment. The bard's going to start to pluck his lute again. And you'll see as like Sildar kind of like looks towards the others of you, and then he's going to approach Toblin, and he's apologies there, Toblin. I We could have replaced anything that was damaged here. They're gonna have to be leaving town here soon. And he's gonna look towards the rest of you, and he's gonna like look towards Darren, and Linan, and then towards. Damn, I'm trying to think of the bard's name. Thistle Greenleaf is. But to the Gob Greenleaf, there we go. And he'll kind of like gather the others here, and he's I understand and I appreciate that you all like to vote on your town masters. But I'm well aware of who the Ruby Owl is. And knowing that they are here, knowing who they support, Harbin Wester has chosen to step down and pass on the rule of this town to me. You can call for a vote when you would like, but until they are dealt with, Phandalin is under the guard of the Lord's Alliance, and I will be your steward.
Kandar's eyebrows are gonna kind of raise at that. And he's almost gonna kind of like he'll like leaning like kind of like leaning over towards Lenine, just kind of like almost like conspiratorially discretion's clearly on this one's forte, yeah.
She kind of like smirks at you as like Sildar's kind of like turning around to the two of you in particular, like after having like his little speech to like the actual locals here. He's actually going to be spinning off to the two of you, and he's kind of like looking towards you with like a thank you again, and then to Linen he kind of like nods and he's like, "It'll be good for business." And you can see like she's certainly not opposed to having like a more full Lord's Alliance presence here. So, unless you all intend to do anything else this evening, we are going to take this in through the night. We will have a long rest in the actual night here while you all are staying at the Stonehill Inn. This will be where you guys can level up to 2. If you would like to do a level in the same class, you will roll a similar hit die. I believe it is a D10 if you go for Paladin level 2, and it's a D8 if you go for Rogue level 2. Do you guys have your level 2s in mind?
Kandar's sticking with Rogue, yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with Paladin. I'm going for both of the ancients at level 3. Ah, dang. That really sucks.